clap at once. I don't know, I'm just needy that way. They say my name, I think, well, somebody will clap. One of my friends will clap. Good afternoon, and welcome to the Black Enterprise Annual Small Business Awards Luncheon, hosted by Koch Industries and Georgia Pacific, LLC. Each year, we take this time to honor entrepreneurial excellence and celebrate the most impressive entrepreneurs of the year. In just a few moments, we'll present the 2017 Entrepreneurs Summit Small Business Awards, recognizing the top family business, teenpreneur, techpreneur, and franchise owner. Following these recognitions, we'll be joined by multi-billionaire Charles Koch, CEO of Koch Industries, and Johnny C. Taylor, President and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, for a powerful fireside chat on opening up doors of opportunity for the next generation of entrepreneurs. But first, I'm sure you've noticed your lunch has been served and it's waiting. So let's place a blessing over this meal so that you can start to enjoy it. Please bow your heads. Thank you, Lord, for this time together, for this food before us, for the hands that prepared it, those that serve it, and those who share it with us. Bless our sponsors and our speakers, Lord. Make them impactful and make us open to receiving. Keep us mindful as we move through this summit of the needs of each other, not just ourselves. Help us identify openings for giving, for growing, partnering, learning, creating, and seeing possibilities in new ways so that we may fulfill your most extraordinary purposes for our lives here in Houston and for as long as you allow us breath. Amen. Okay, you can eat. But while you do, I have a few housekeeping items to share with you. And it's so nice that you waited. I'm sure God appreciates it. If you would like to learn how to use the web to really propel your brand, or to hack it, as Bonin would say, as he said this morning, then be sure to attend this afternoon's How to Use the Web to Become a Brand in Demand, hosted by FedEx in Salon AB at 3 p.m. Also at 3 o'clock, Shell hosts a session on seizing hot opportunities in energy in Salon C. If you've scheduled an appointment for business coaching in the Briar Grove and Kingswood rooms, please arrive at your appointment on time. That's on time, like the time you scheduled. If you're interested in an opportunity to do business here in Houston, there'll be a business certification lab at 3:30 p.m. in the River Oaks A. At 5, be sure to get a seat for the Satisfying Your Appetite for Profits in the Food Products Business, hosted by Walmart and featuring none other than Patti LaBelle and Yolanda Adams. That takes place right here in Salon D&E. Make sure to also check out the Business-to-Business Exchange, and it's not just outside in the foyer. Experience all of Buy Black in Ballroom F. Lastly, the ever-popular Going Up, the elevator pitch competition hosted by AT&T, begins right here at 6:30 p.m. Enjoy your lunch. We'll be back after. Thank you, my one clapper here at Nationwide. Appreciate you. Thank you. Okay, I hope you've enjoyed lunch. If you will continue a little quietly, we're going to pick up the program. For 22 consecutive years, the Black Enterprise Entrepreneur Summit has championed small businesses with big ambitions and a bold commitment to excel and succeed. The ingenuity and drive of these businesses are an inspiration to everyone who desires success and longevity as they pursue their own dreams of economic independence. It is in this spirit that we recognize this year's Small Business Awards nominees and winners. Individuals who are bringing new products to the forefront, redefining marketing strategies, discovering new and profitable markets, and serving as catalysts for economic growth within their communities. Now let's begin our presentations. The awards will be presented in the categories of Family Business of the Year, Techpreneur of the Year, Teenpreneur of the Year, and Franchise Company of the Year. Each category has 3 nominees and 1 winner, though in each case, all are winners in their own right. For the 3rd straight year, I'm pleased to recognize Koch Industries and Georgia Pacific LLC as our luncheon hosts and sponsors. Please take a look.
For me, the obvious choice was to continue the legacy of HBCU in my family. The first thing I noticed when I got on campus was that there was this huge support system that as soon as I came in, I jumped into study groups. Professors are reaching out to me. When I come on campus, that I feel like I'm a part of a family.
None of my parents went to college. I knew I wanted to go to an HBCU after hearing about the family vibe that you get, and I can say it has been the best decision I've made.
My path at GP has been just like my college career, that we jump in, learn the process, learn the leaders in those processes. I was like, okay, this is where I see myself, this is where I don't see myself. And I was able to communicate that to the people who I work for. So my manager was able to guide me in the right direction as well. And now I'm, blossoming into the engineer that I was trained to be.
We are engineers. We need to get some dirt, some grease, some oil on our fingernails at work. And that's what I can get at Georgia Pacific, and that's what I have. I'm not stuck behind a desk.
My advice to students graduating would be to have an impact on the environment that you're in. Don't be afraid to stand out and allow people to see you and see what you can do.
Take advantage of the classes that you really don't like or that you're not good at, because it's those classes and those courses and those fields of engineering that are eventually going to come back.
Here to bring remarks and present our first award, Family Business of the Year, is the president of the Georgia Pacific Foundation, Curly Dossman, Jr.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much, Caroline, for that kind introduction. I'm proud to be here to represent Georgia Pacific and our parent company, Koch Industries, and welcome you to the Small Business Awards Luncheon. We couldn't be happier to help recognize the hard work and business success of all the entrepreneurs at this summit, and especially the fantastic nominees being honored here today. So you might be wondering, what do Georgia Pacific products like Angel Soft bath tissue, Dixie plates and napkins, lumber and corrugated boxes all have to do with entrepreneurship? Well, a lot, as a matter of fact. Entrepreneurship is at the heart of our company, and it's the basis of what we believe makes us successful. In fact, GP started in Augusta, Georgia, as a small hardwood lumber business in 1927 by our founder, who himself was an entrepreneur, Owen Cheatham. Across Coke companies, we work hard to build a culture that attracts, develops, and rewards principal entrepreneurs. Much like the employees you just saw in our video about supporting HBCU graduates, and I'm proud to have our two young graduates and new employees at Georgia Pacific here with us today at the table. Thank you very much. These are people who think and act like entrepreneurs, people who are focused on driving change, innovating, and creating value for society, people like you. Entrepreneurship is often the spark behind community growth and vibrancy, which is why it's an important area that Georgia Pacific and Coke Industries supports. We invest in a wide range of programs aimed at providing people with greater opportunities, including teaching them about the value of entrepreneurship. And one of those programs I'm particularly proud to be involved with is Youth Entrepreneurs. Youth Entrepreneurs was born out of a program first started by Coke in Wichita, and it's now a privately funded business entrepreneurship program hosted in many public schools, many of them with at-risk populations. It teaches practical economics, principles, and the benefits of a free enterprise system and real-world business skills for the 21st century. Most of you in this room are entrepreneurs in one way or another. You have built your businesses with your own two hands and taken considerable personal risk. You are dedicated to providing exceptional products and services to your customers while continually looking ahead and innovating. So having the courage to reinvent your business to meet the needs of your customers in new and better ways. And these are all aspects we also fiercely champion within the walls of Georgia Pacific and across Coke companies. We're proud to be here to support and recognize your hard work and success. So thank you and congratulations in advance to all the award winners. And so now I have the honor of introducing the first award category, Family Business of the Year. I'm honored to pay tribute to this year's outstanding small business owners and present the nominees for Family Business of the Year award. This award is presented to a family-operated business that exemplifies the combined experience and expertise needed to excel in a key industry. Our first nominee is Taylor Construction Management. Taylor Construction Management was established right here in Houston, Texas by Troy and Kelly Taylor. The company provides professional services, operating as owner representatives or agents, performing facility improvement and project management services, as well as construction site inspection as needed. Taylor Construction Management clients projects include managing more than $500 million at Houston Bush International Airports and upwards of $1 billion in the education industry here in the state of Texas. Taylor Construction Management has grown its revenues from $132,000 in 2012 to more than $3.1 million in 2016. Join me in congratulating Troy and Kelly Taylor. Our next nominee is Capital City LLC. Established in 2011 by Charles and Arshay Jones, Capital City LLC is a specialty foods manufacturer based in Arnold, Maryland, and produces a regional cult-like condiment called Mambo Sauce, a sweet, sticky, and tangy chicken wing condiment indigenous to the Washington, D.C. area. The company's flagship product, mild mambo sauce, is the first commercially bottled alternative for those who love the taste of mambo sauce but have little to no access to it. The recipe and marketing of the product is created by Arshay, while Charles oversees the logistics, inventory, warehousing, and delivery to retail locations throughout the Washington, D.C. Capital City LLC's revenues grew from $32,000 at its start to more than $355,000 in 2016. Join me in applauding Arshay and Charles Jones. And the final Family Business of the Year nominee is Sterling Staffing Solutions. Sterling Staffing Solutions was founded in 2011 by twin brothers, Stephen L. Carter and Dr. Sterling L. Carter, based in Sugar Land, Texas. Sterling Staffing Solutions provides healthcare staffing for several clinical disciplines, including physical, occupational, and speech therapy, social work, skilled nursing, radiology technicians, medical assistants, physicians, and pharmacists. They contract more than 500 therapists on both a full-time and as-needed basis. They service nearly 300 clients throughout Texas and Oklahoma, including the greater metropolitan and rural areas surrounding Houston, San Antonio, Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City. Sterling Staffing Solutions began with $470,000 in revenues and has increased its growth to nearly $3.5 million in 2016. Congratulations, Stephen and Sterling. And again, let's give all of our family businesses a well-deserved round of applause. And now for the winner. And the 2017 Family Business of the Year is Capital City LLC. Arshay and Charles, please come and accept your award.
Congratulations, Mr. and Mrs. Jones, Capital City LLC, and to all the nominees, and thank you, Curly. Our next presenter will recognize the nominees for Techpreneur of the Year. Please welcome LaKendra Davis, AVP Sales Transformation, AT&T Small Business Solutions.
Y'all enjoying lunch? I didn't get lunch in the back, so I'm hungry. All right, AT&T is happy to join Black Enterprise in celebrating the outstanding achievements of this year's Small Business Award honorees. Celebrating innovative achievements that leverage technology to enhance the way we live and work is a long-time commitment of AT&T. So we are particularly excited to present the Techpreneur of the Year Award for the third straight year. The Techpreneur of the Year Award recognizes fast growth, groundbreaking technology, and industry disruption. So with that, let's talk about our first of three nominees. Lael Alexander and Noitavani Inc. and Companies. We can clap. I don't know, Lael, are you out there? Hey, there he is. He started the clap. All right. Noitavani Inc. and its subsidiaries operate as an original design and equipment manufacturer, creating consumer products to spec for companies that ultimately sell them to retail consumers. This practice allows the firm to deliver products without running a full-scale factory or brand. In 2011, Noitavani's founder, Lael Alexander, invented the smartphone companion loop right here in H-Town. In 2012, Noitavani received 2 Best in Show honors, including one at CTIA New Orleans as a newcomer to the mobile device industry. The company's first shipped product was a tablet device, formally presented at the 2012 Consumer Electronics Show in Las Vegas. Noitavani currently services clients globally and continues to grow its efforts to provide customized solutions tailored to suit the requirements of a demanding consumer market. Its revenues have grown from $760,000 to nearly $4 million. Well done, Lael. Our second nominee is Ovamba Solutions Incorporated. With $650,000 raised from friends and family, those are some great friends and family, Viola Llewellyn and Marvin Cole founded Ovamba in 2013. The company launched in Douala, Cameroon in June of 2014 and serviced its first customer a few short months later. Ovamba Solutions is a web portal and mobile app that delivers growth as a service, an offer that provides micro, small, and medium-sized businesses in Africa and the Middle East with short-term trade and growth capital, with funds provided from investors from the UK, the United States, and Japan. This, combined with the algorithm Viola and Marvin created to measure risk on the African continent in the absence of credit bureaus, allows these businesses to access the capital required to grow. Last year, Ovamba received the Africa Finch Award for the best lending and finance tech in Africa. They recorded nearly $8 million in revenues in 2016. Well done, Ovamba Solutions. Our third and final nominee for Techpreneur of the Year is Soldsea. Soldsea is an e-commerce service that enables businesses to sell directly to its Facebook and Instagram followers through their comments. How many of you guys have bought something through Facebook and Instagram? I know, me too. In 2012, co-founders Chris Bennett and Errol Gray launched Soldsea in San Francisco at a time when the e-commerce industry was questioning whether or not Facebook commerce, or F-commerce, was actually sensible. Chris and Errol found that Facebook commerce could not only work, but could leverage social interaction across the profile pages of retailers, sellers, and businesses. Last November, Soldsea developed Have to Have It, a similar service for Instagram. Have to Have It allows consumers to shop via the comment section of their Instagram pages by typing sold alongside their email address. Since 2013, Soldsea's revenues have grown from $330,000 to nearly $1 million. Congratulations, Chris and Errol. What an impressive group of nominees. Let's give them all a round of applause. But there can only be one winner, and the 2017 Techpreneur of the Year is Lael Alexander and Noitavani Inc. Lael, come on up and get your award.
Congratulations, Lael, and congratulations to all our techpreneurs, and thank you, Lakendra. The next presenter will recognize the nominees for Teenpreneur of the Year. Please welcome the Manager of Sales for FedEx Services, Mikhail Lowry.
Thank you, Caroline. Hello, everyone. On behalf of FedEx, we're pleased to support Black enterprise and their commitment to entrepreneurs, both emerging and established. Thus, it's my pleasure to present the Teenpreneur of the Year Award, recognizing 3 exceptional emerging companies and its spirited young founders and creators. The Teenpreneur of the Year Award recognizes business-minded individuals ages 19 and under, committed to the tradition of Black business achievement and who embody the Black enterprise entrepreneurial spirit. Our first nominee is Sandra Beauty. Sandra Beauty, based in Buffalo, New York, produces natural skincare for tween and teen girls and women. Sandra Cunningham founded her company at the age of 9, wanting to create an alternative to the commercial products that contain harmful and unnecessary ingredients because of her sensitive skin. Sandra's had a full line of products in stores across the nation and also has a facility to host product-making, do-it-yourself educational classes and workshops for the local community. Sandra Beauty has grown its revenues from $8,000 in 2012 to $100,000 in 2016. Let's give a round of applause for Sandra Cunningham. Our next nominee is Cool Kids Snow Cones. In Memphis, it's been widely reported that Jaden Willer and Amaya Seldom are the youngest owners of a food truck in town. The siblings, ages 16 and she's 14, own and operate Cool Kids Snow Cones, a snow cone business that they developed several years ago before they reached their teen years. Cool Kids Snow Cones serves customers at local parks and sporting events. Their snow cone varieties come in more than 20 flavors, and they've also added hot dogs and nachos to their menu. The company was launched in 2011. By 2013, Jaden and Amaya earned $8,600 in revenues. Last year, their revenues increased nearly $20,000. So please join me in applauding Jaden and Amaya and Cool Kids Snow Cones. Our final nominee is Gabby Bowles. Gabby Bowles was created to resolve the age-old issue of young girls regularly losing their hair brunettes. By inventing a double-faced, double-snap brunette that will never slip from the hair, no matter their hair type, Gabby Goodwin has given moms everywhere, in every place, a peace of mind. Gabby was just 5 years old when she asked her mother to help her design a hair brunette that would stay in her hair. By the time she was 7, she was selling her intervention on the internet at GabbyBowles.com. She sold more than 18,000 packs of Gabby Bowles in just 3 years of business, growing her revenues from $8,000 in 2012 to also $100,000 in 2016. So congratulations to Gabrielle and Gabby Bowles. And without further ado, the winner is, and the Teenpreneur of the Year goes to Cool Kids Snow Cones.
Congratulations again to Jaden and Amaya, and kudos to all of our teenpreneurs. Our final award, Franchise Company of the Year, will be presented by the Director of Sales and Operations for Nationwide. Please welcome Merle Flakes.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Caroline. Nationwide is honored to join Black Enterprise in celebrating the outstanding achievements of this year's small business nominees. And I am pleased to recognize and present the nominees for the Franchise Company of the Year award. This award is presented to a franchise for outstanding performance and overall contributions in enhancing the growth and development in the franchising industry. Our first nominee is JFC Miami Management Holdings, LLC. JFC Miami Management Holding is a food and beverage operator headquartered in South Florida. The company has owned and operated fast casual nationally branded dining concepts in Miami-Dade and Broward counties for over 10 years. JFC Miami opened in Einstein's Brothers Bagels and Starbucks in October on Jackson Memorial Hospital campus with financial partner Florida Community Bank. 2 respective locations will soon follow in the new Miami Central Station, which will serve all aboard Florida Bright Line passengers. Partners Ramona Hall and Udonis Haslam has grown JFC Miami Management from holdings from $1.9 million in 2012 to $5.6 million in 2016. Let's give JFC Miami Management Holdings and Ramona and Udonis a round of applause. Our second nominee is Go-Go Party Bus. Go-Go Party Bus provides premier transportation and event services for a range of personal and professional events. Launched in 2011 by Lanicia Cooper, Go-Go Party Bus operates 6 fully equipped party buses with seating capacities that accommodates between 14 to 30 passengers. Its growth has included gaining membership with the National Limousine Association and franchising opportunities in Charlotte, North Carolina, and in Orlando, Miami, and Pensacola, Florida. Go-Go Party Bus has grown its revenues from $90,000 in 2012 to over $500,000 in 2016. Congratulations to Lanicia and Go-Go Party Bus franchise. Our final nominee is the Sisters and Company. When Barbara Elliott decided to purchase a Decorating Den Interiors franchise, she asked her sister Jennifer Ward Woods to move to Atlanta to be her partner. Together, the sisters formed the Sisters and Company and embarked on building an incredible business that has garnered them numerous awards, including 2 Decorating Den Interior Decor of the Year awards, People's Choice Awards, and the Crystal Award, which places them among the top 3 in sales for the United States and Canada. They use their Decorating Den Interiors franchise to create visual design solutions for homes and businesses in the Atlanta metro area. The Sisters and Company revenues totaled $911,000 in 2012 and grew to $1.3 million in 2016. Congratulations to Barbara and Jennifer and Sisters and Company, and well done to all of our franchisee nominees. Let's please give them a warm welcome. And finally, the winner of the 2017 Franchise Company of the Year Award is JFC Miami Management Holdings, LLC, Ramona D. Hall, Managing Partner, and Udonis Haslam, Partner, Corporate Affairs. Will you please join us on the stage?
Congratulations, Ramona and Udonis, and congratulations once again to all of the Black Enterprise nominees today. You are exceptional, we applaud you, and wish you continued success. Please give them all a round of applause. It's now time to seg into our fireside chat, a new generation of entrepreneurs. Today, we venture into a critical discussion on how to cultivate the next generation of entrepreneurial innovators and value creators by harnessing the proven potential of HBCUs, providing broader access to entrepreneurial education for youth, and removing barriers to entrepreneurship opportunities, especially in urban communities. This is a topic of critical importance to our community and our nation, and an opportunity exists for every single one of you to contribute to this dialogue and this vital work. Our featured guests are powerfully connected as leaders and individuals who are making impactful strides towards enriching the lives of our young people. Joining us is businessman, political donor, philanthropist, co-owner, chairman of the board, and chief executive officer of Koch Industries, Charles Koch. Originally involved exclusively in oil refining and chemicals, Koch Industries now includes process and pollution control equipment and technologies, polymers and fibers, minerals, fertilizers, commodity trading and services, forest and consumer products, and ranching. Koch Industries produces a wide variety of well-known brands such as Stainmaster Carpet, the Lycra brand of spandex fiber, Quilted Northern Tissue, and Dixie Cup, and is the second largest privately held company by revenue in the United States. In addition to his business success, Charles Koch has had dramatic impact in the philanthropic world, much of it accomplished through the Charles G. Koch Charitable Foundation. Among the causes he is committed to are improving the effectiveness of education systems, ranging from grades K through 12 to trade schools and universities, including HBCUs, to removing regulatory barriers constraining self-employment entrepreneurship, and to advancing the cause of criminal justice and prison reform. The common thread in Mr. Koch's business philosophy and philanthropic efforts is his commitment to principled entrepreneurship, the subject of his most recent book entitled Good Profit: How Creating Value for Others Built One of the World's Most Successful Companies. Also joining us is the president and CEO of the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, Johnny C. Taylor, Jr. Johnny leads the only national organization representing nearly 300,000 students attending the country's 47 publicly supported historically Black colleges and universities. With approximately 80% of all HBCU students attending TMCF member schools, Johnny leads an organization responsible for providing this country with a robust and diverse pipeline of talented workers and future leaders. Under Taylor's leadership, in partnership with Koch Industries and the Charles Koch Foundation, the Center for Advancing Opportunity was launched earlier this year with an ambitious mission to expand educational, social, and economic opportunities in our nation's fragile communities. Before we bring our guests out this afternoon, please take a look at the extraordinary work these two gentlemen are doing together.
Look around. America is divided between success and failure, with government and corporations picking winners and losers, rigging the system against people, creating a two-tiered society with policies that fail our most vulnerable, dooming many of our poor to an unjust cycle of incarceration, stacking the deck against businesses that don't get subsidies and tax breaks. We could do so much better. We could reform our legal system and free young minds to reach their potential. With an end to red tape and excessive regulations, innovation would flourish. America could be open for business again. At Koch, we believe it's time to remove the barriers, to end the divide, to replace winner-take-all with a system where we all can win. Learn more at endthedivide.com.
Our moderator today is Black Enterprise's own Alfred Edmond Jr., Senior Vice President and Executive Editor-at-Large. Please join me in welcoming him, as well as Charles Koch and Johnny C. Taylor, Jr.
Hello, everyone. I have been so looking forward to this conversation because it speaks to a personal passion of mine, which is how are we going to create the next generation, to equip the next generation of entrepreneurs, and what should be the mindset of the next generation of entrepreneurs. And we have a partnership here, people who are great people as individuals, but also great partners in terms of working on that both individually and as a team. So first, let me let you know, we will have about 10 minutes of Q&A. We're on a tight schedule. We want to stay on time. And to make sure that we don't go over on time, I'm changing the Q&A a little bit. You might see notepads on each of your tables. Please, during the course of the conversation, if you have a question, please write down that question. A person on our team will collect that question and bring them up to me so that I can ask the questions and make sure that we do, in fact, have a 10-minute Q&A, because we like long Q&As at conferences, but we can't afford that today. All right, so we are clear and we understand that? Okay? So if you have any questions, you don't have to wait until the end. If you have a question, just write it down, pass it up. It'll be collected, and before we get to the Q&A session, they will bring them to me, and I will shoot those questions to you guys, and I'm sure you can handle anything that we throw at you. Okay? But let's you know, and let me say this. This is not my first time, my first conversation with Charles Koch. I had the pleasure of interviewing him for Black Enterprise last year. In fact, if you remember our last Entrepreneur Summit special featuring Miko Branch of Miss Jessie's on the cover, that's when we talked about your business philosophy and your latest book, Good Profit, and some of the conversation we'll talk about here will refer to much of what we had in that conversation. And that conversation also appeared at blackenterprise.com. And then Johnny and the Thurgood Marshall College Fund, if you know anything about these great schools and the work that they do and the graduates they produce, many of whom are employed at Koch Industries, as we got them here earlier when Curly was speaking, you know that this is a powerful, powerful partnership. But what brings us here today, and what are we talking about today? We are at I think, a critical point for our nation, for the world economically, and we are in an era where entrepreneurship in some ways is being celebrated as never before, promoted as never before. It's the ambition of more people than ever. Yet, at the same time, not all the resources are in place, and in some cases there are resources that are blocking the ability to have a full expression of that love and enthusiasm for entrepreneurship. But our country, and certainly the world, needs entrepreneurs, and we need a generation that's prepared to move the ball forward. So I want to start off the conversation talking about your partnership, this creation of the Center for Advancing Opportunity. And each of you kind of weigh in on one, Charles, your belief in principled entrepreneurship and what your goal is for what the Center for Advancing Opportunity will accomplish in terms of the principled entrepreneurship. And of course, Johnny, your goals, as obviously you're trying to harness the talent, the energy of HBCU students and HBCU intellect and capital to help bring this idea of entrepreneurship and principled entrepreneurship to fruition. Yes. So Charles, why don't you start talking about what is principled entrepreneurship and what is it? I know it informs your personal life as well as your approach to business.
Well, it is pretty personal because principled entrepreneurship is what made Koch Industries successful and transformed my life. And so what is it? I look at it as that it's the starting point in business. And what every business that they want to be successful long-term need to dedicate themselves to, and that's creating value for others. Now, when I say that on a college campus, boy, I get a lot of, no, you need to focus on maximizing your profit. Well, if you're not creating value for others, why does anybody do business with you? Why do they pay you? Right. I mean, it's naive the other way. So the starting point is creating value for others, and you start with your customers. And so how do you do that? You think, first of all, you examine what are the best opportunities for me to create value for others given my capabilities. And then focus on constantly improving and adding to my capabilities to create value for these customers, and then constantly find new opportunities for creating value and new customers. So this is the way we put it, this is to be the counterparty of choice. But it doesn't just end there. For us, we need to create value for all of our counterparties. That is for society at large, for our employees, our partners, and our communities. So to the extent we do that, we're successful. To the extent we don't, we aren't. And this, to me, all starts with the recognition that throughout history, success can come to anybody. Virtually everybody has the ability to learn, contribute, and succeed if they have the right mindset and they have the freedom and opportunity to do so. So that's our starting point with principled entrepreneurship.
And I want to circle back to that because in our earlier conversation, you've gone through great lengths. You know, every one of us has worked for corporations or no corporations where the CEO or the chairman has a certain philosophy. It's one thing to have that philosophy. It's another thing to really integrate that deeply into the day-to-day operations of every person in your organization. It's not easy to do, not easy to maintain. But I want to talk about the challenges of doing that as well. But talk to me, Johnny, about this creation of this $26 million initiative, this Center for Advancing Opportunity. What is it and what is it meant to accomplish, particularly as it relates to moving the ball forward and creating this generation of entrepreneurs?
Particularly, thank you again for giving me the opportunity to be here. So the vision for this came out of the idea that our community, the African American community, I don't speak in terms of communities of color, let's specifically at this point talk about African American communities. We were struggling. I mean, if you've seen all of the latest Urban League report and others, at the end of the day, if you really look at the indicators, objective indicators, there are some real problem points in our community that are preventing us from growing. And so we represent historically black colleges and universities, in particular public HBCUs. One of the early observations was that we were not harnessing the power of those institutions from the faculty side or the student side to really make meaningful change back in our communities. We were bringing students in, preparing them, and then sending them out to make wealth for other people. And therein was the problem. If you all think about it, for those of you who attended HBCUs here, oftentimes the idea was come here, get a job, and go make someone else money. And if you had a stop in between, it was to get an MBA or some graduate degree and then go make somebody else some more money. And this notion was, we have got to do something about it. I had this line, I know it's not grammatically correct, folks, but I say only us can save us. And that's why HBCUs had to play a role in helping reverse some of the alarming trends in our community. So we went to Mr. Koch. I literally called up, I wrote a letter, talks about cold calling. I literally, that was my entrepreneurial work, wrote him a letter one day and said, there's some challenges in our community. We talk about criminal justice reform, which is one of our areas.
We're going to get into that during this conversation as well.
Education reform, another area. But the big aha was entrepreneurship. Because we can't fix this if we don't generate entrepreneurialism in our community. Whether you are working outside and building your own or working inside of an organization, we said those three things. I mean, the enormity of the challenges facing all communities are big, but if we could sort those three, we could go a long way toward changing the trajectory for the community. And I'm pleased to say, this is a truth, I sent this note within, 3 days, I got a call from the Koch Foundation saying he had forwarded, Mr. Charles Koch had forwarded the letter on, and he wanted to know more about how he could help us. We weren't proposing a scholarship plan, because you all know scholarship plans. They're transactional. You get the scholarship. How many of us even remember who helped provide us our education other than your parents? You get a scholarship, and 30 years later, so what? We wanted something that was transformational, not just for HBCUs, but for our community.
Okay. So let's talk about, yes, please.
Thank you.
So before we get into some of the initiatives and programs that we've talked about in preparation for this conversation, I do want to spend some time talking about what I'm going to call the entrepreneurial mindset. Yes. And I know both of you, there's what we think of as the entrepreneurial mindset, and there's what we think it should be. So first, I want to talk a little bit about this idea of liberation as a state of mind. And Charles, you and I have talked, and that you can't be an entrepreneur without a liberated state of mind. Expand on that a little bit.
Right. Well, to us, and I think history bears this out, liberated people are productive, innovative, and entrepreneurial. People who are subjugated, controlled, or dependent are not. So the starting point is for an entrepreneur. And for an entrepreneur, you've got to be bold, you've got to take risks, you've got to be aggressive, you've got to have confidence. So the first thing is to have a state of mind, as I said, that I can learn, contribute, and succeed. And I'm willing to take risks, I'm willing to go against the odds, I'm willing to go against the flow, I'm willing to do things differently than everybody's telling me to do, because that's where innovation comes from, is doing things differently. And then you've got to learn what capabilities you have to create value for others. You've got to learn, and for an individual, that means what are my special innate abilities? Nobody is, people used to have the IQ test, you're smart or dumb. Now, with multiple intelligence theory, they've found, no, everybody is smart in certain ways and dumb in others.
Yes.
And if you find the areas you're good at and you develop those and commit them for creating value for others, you will be successful. You can be an entrepreneur. So that's the internal liberation. Now there also needs to be external liberation. That is, we've got to have laws that permit people to be entrepreneurs, to take risks. It's what we call permissionless innovation. If you have to go mother may I for every idea you have, it's going to slow you down. It's the human action model. People act based on three things. They're dissatisfied with the status quo, they have a vision of something better, and a path to get there. And you can internally have the first two, but if you're not allowed that path, if because of the laws or the social stigma or whatever, you're not allowed, you won't get there.
And
so
we see that all the time because, there was a heavy concentration, and I'm going to speak for myself, the 80s and the 90s, to create access. And it was important to create access, so it wasn't like that was a bad thing. But if you created the access, but then you still had barriers to getting down the path. You opened the door, but you couldn't get to the door.
Right.
Or because of your mindset, the door was open, but you didn't think it was your role to walk through it. Then you had open doors that people didn't go through.
That's right. Yeah, well, it's like this friend of mine who worked for one of the major companies who was always complaining about bureaucracy. He couldn't do anything. He couldn't get anything done. I said, well, what do you do? He said, after a while, you paint your tail white and run with the antelope.
Run fast.
And that's what we're doing to people.
Right. Yeah. So let me take that a step further. And Johnny and I, you and I had a very interesting conversation of, and both of you can jump in. I know that, Charles, you believe in what we call virtuous cycles, that everybody in a given relationship, we'll call it, in this case, entrepreneurial relationship, is contributing and benefiting, mutual benefit. Johnny and I had an interesting conversation of juxtaposing that against the traditional, just pretty much African-American cultural mindset of giving back.
Right.
So talk about what you see as the difference between those two things.
And I have to admit, I had to think about it. You know, we all too often use the phrase that once you become successful, you owe it to the community. You have to give back. And the fact of the matter is something's kind of wrong with that. All relationships need to sort of have some level of symbiosis, right? People need to feel good. It needs to be good for you, and it needs to be good for me. And therefore, it's a good relationship. Just practically, imagine marrying someone and saying, I need to give back to you. The whole sense is, that's not good. This needs to be good. You're giving me something that I value. I'm giving you something that I value. And ultimately, we are a great partnership. This concept of giving back feels like sort of entitlement. It feels like someone owes you something, or worst case, you owe someone else. And all of you who are in the room who are entrepreneurs, and you know I've been through that and continue to have entrepreneur pursuits, the reality is you work really hard. You make a ton of sacrifices, and you take huge risk that really impacts your entire family. So you don't owe anyone else anything. What you owe is your customer a good value for what they paid you for. And that customer is in turn expected to get a good value from you. When we do that, it changes the whole thing on a dime. You're no longer talking about doing this because I feel sorry for you, I pity you, I'm smarter than you, you're not smart, and therefore I need to give back to you. It is, we both win in this game. When I go work for a company, I'm at that company because they pay me well and I do good work for them. That's the concept. And we really do have to get out of this idea of giving back. You owe someone something, because all of us and those in the room know you sacrifice heavily to be successful.
Yeah, partnership is more valuable than mere giving.
That's right.
And actually the most successful, even pure, well, Thurgood Marshall is a great example. I tell people, non-profit does not mean not-for-profit. You're just using the profit.
Amen.
Just using the profit in a different way to bring value.
I don't pay taxes. That's
right. So let's carry that idea back to this idea of mutual benefit and virtual cycles. And you in our conversation for the article in Black Enterprise, you really did a great job of talking about how that works in the real world.
Well, that's why I'm so big on principled entrepreneurship, and I was blessed at an early age to have learned some principles and values and concepts that transformed my life and enabled me to accomplish more than I ever was really capable of or dreamed possible, but because of these ideas. And I've seen people, person after person, who gets similar ideas, and it transforms them, and then they help transform society. And if I could take just a minute, I think one of the greatest entrepreneurs in the history of this country was somebody some of you may have heard of, Frederick Douglass. And go through the 3 steps in his transformation, making him, in my mind, one of the great entrepreneurs who did as much for this country as about anybody. He overheard the master telling his wife, who was teaching Douglas to read along with her children, he heard the master tell her that you can't teach him to read. If he becomes educated, he will be unfit for the duties of a slave. That was like a lightning bolt to Douglas. He said, my God, I'm not a slave because I'm an inferior. I'm a slave because they're keeping me ignorant. And ingenious techniques, masterful techniques, he taught himself to read on his own. And then he said, since I'm not inferior, I'm not going to put up with these beatings anymore, and I'm going to escape at the first opportunity, which he did. Okay, that's the first step, changing his mindset. The second one was understanding what his innate abilities were to create value. And he was at an abolitionist rally with all the top Garrison, all the top abolitionists, and they asked him to speak. Oh my God, I'm an exile, I can't speak. He got up and spoke, and he was the best. And he learned, my God, I got tremendous aptitude to write and speak, and I can become a leader. And then the best of all is not a leader. I mean, most of us, if we'd been through what we would be vindictive. We're going to get back. Talk about getting back. I mean, I'm afraid I wouldn't be as good a person, not many of us would, as he was. But he not only fought then, dedicated his life to eliminating slavery, but fought for women's rights, immigrants' rights, persecuted religious groups' rights. He fought for, so no one would ever have to experience what he did. Now that is principled entrepreneurship at the highest.
If I may jump in there, that was...
And I'm cheating, I knew that. So I brought my Frederick Douglass notebook just to acknowledge.
Let me chime in too. What you all just saw, too often, I, like most of you, have this idea of the Koch brothers. You hear in the media what they are and who they are, and they wore, horns and a tail and all that, right? And so...
I cut them off for this.
But I promise you, what you just heard, this is genuine. He didn't do this because we're at Black Enterprise. When I went to go meet with him in Wichita,
same experience.
You walked in, you're like, wow. I was like, wait a minute. I walked in and I saw pictures of Frederick Douglass and books about him, and so this is a genuine interest in the community, notwithstanding what the rub is. And so I was really moved by our initial conversation where he understood, hell, history better than I did in some instances. I was like, really? That's what he did?
I needed the lesson more than you did. That was it.
But the idea is that there's a real, genuine commitment to removing obstacles and removing barriers to people's success. I'll never forget this statement. He said, my job is not to ensure that every one of your children are successful. That's up to them. Our job is to remove arbitrary barriers. That's the job. So thank you.
Thank you, Ben.
So let's circle that idea of liberated entrepreneurial thinking and removing barriers to being able to act on those thoughts, and circle it to a system that is not necessarily built to do that. And you're doing a lot of work in K through 12, public education. We talked about youth entrepreneurs, and we'll talk about that some more. Talk to me about the work that you're doing with youth entrepreneurs and other programs that really try to, in public schools, and again, in many of what we call disadvantaged communities, to at least create the mindset of entrepreneurship that will set young people free, and get them thinking earlier about their capacity and the desire to bring value.
Well, as I said, I have, since I benefited from these ideas, I've been dedicated to trying to give as many other people as possible the opportunity to enjoy those same benefits. And so several decades ago, my wife and I started an organization called Youth Entrepreneurs, and we teach high school, junior, sophomore years in the public high schools, and particularly in inner city schools, these concepts. And then at the end of the course, we have a contest where the students write a business plan, and then the best business plans give some venture capital to, maybe $1,000 or $3,000 or $4,000. And then once they get their business started, we get a local entrepreneur to mentor them. And one of the most thrilling evenings of me was when I really saw how it was transforming some of these students' life. And this was maybe 20-some years ago. This girl who won one of the awards started out with her family background, tragic, horrible upbringing, and so she thought it was hopeless. She couldn't get anything, so she was failing. And she heard about this course and said, that might be interesting. And she got in there and she said, I have a chance to make some money and maybe get something and be successful. And so she said, but wait a second, I've got to learn to write and speak if I'm gonna have a winning business plan. And then if I have a business, I've got to measure what's working and what isn't, so I got to learn math. And then if I want to have customers, I got to start treating others with respect. And she said, it transformed my life. I went from flunking to getting straight A's. That's the power of these ideas.
My passion for youth entrepreneurship, and for a long time, Black Enterprise had a teenpreneurs conference that was part of this conference, and all 4 of my children came up through that conference, through that system. And my children are far from disadvantaged, no matter what they say.
It's all relative,
Yeah, it's all relative.
Just a mean daddy.
Yeah, I'm just so
That's
tough
all
and
it is
hard.
today.
But the point I want to make is that very early on, and my oldest was at the very first one, so she was 8, and it had an immediate impact on their connecting why math is important, why reading is important, why my ability to speak and express myself is important, because when you're running a business, if you can't do all those things, if you can't communicate your ideas, but so much of education, I'll say public education, all my kids came up through public school, there's not a connection between why you need to know this and what kind of value you get or can give as a result of that. So I'm just very passionate about youth entrepreneurship in particular, and just so pleased. And the thing is, how do you expand that? How do you get that to more schools? I mean, you're doing what you can. I know you got programs in Atlanta.
Well, we started
places.
in Wichita, and we've spread. We're in 9 states now, and we're now getting it on the internet, so we can have, so we can leverage it much more, because it is very labor intensive. I mean, it always will be to some extent, but with technology, we can get it, we hope to go viral, and we can get in all the states and offer it to everybody who wants it. It requires local leadership, though, who can gather the entrepreneurs, get it organized, provide some capital there. And so that's the starting point, is getting local leadership.
So let me shift gears to another area that is related to the degree that you're talking about removing barriers. You're very, very passionate about criminal justice reform and prison reform, to the degree that when you go through that system, often you come out of that system locked out from opportunity. Talk about why that became personally important to you and why that's important to Koch Industries and the Koch Foundation.
Well, we saw what a barrier that is, and how harmful that was to communities. That, and our belief is, first of all, we need a criminal justice system that is just, where the punishment fits the crime.
Yes.
Whereas the Declaration of Independence said everybody is equal under the law. And so we can't have mandatory minimums. And we've got to have police who are an impossible job. They're supposed to enforce all these regulations and do this, where the foundation of the policeman's job should be to keep peaceful people safe. So they should be in there as friends of the community, aiding the community, rather than harassing a good part of the community. Then if somebody does make a mistake and goes to prison, well, we shouldn't have mandatory minimums where, like somebody that we helped get out after 13 years who was sentenced to 55 years in prison for selling marijuana with a gun in his car. He never threatened anybody. If you're doing that, you better have a gun in the car, because... And the judge
Just
said,
like your uncle, right? We all got that uncle, right? 81 and rich, right?
Yeah. No, so the judge said at the time, he said, I have to sentence you to 55 years. That's a mandatory minimum. And he says, it's outrageous. Finally, we got after 13 years, we got the prosecutor to withdraw the charge. That's the only way we could do it. So what we're doing is working with a number of community groups, one called Defy Ventures, which goes into the prisons and teach the prisoners who are about to get out a trade, find what their aptitude is, what they're interested in, teach them a trade, and then once they get out, help them get a job. And the normal recidivism rate, I think, is around close to 70%. And those who graduate from Defy Ventures, it's 3%.
Wow, wow.
Those are the groups we look for and try to support.
So let's bring it full circle, and we got about 6 minutes left in our conversation. We're going to have about 10 minutes for Q&A, so whoever's gathering the questions, now's a good time to bring me what you have. But so now we have this Center for Advancing Opportunity that you announced in January, I believe.
Right.
How does that relate to everything we just talked about? What are you trying to do that's not being done already?
First of all, you all know what happens. There's a problem, and we think we understand the problem, so then we start developing programs and implementing programs only to wake up, 10 years later, hundreds of millions of dollars later, and it didn't fix it. So the Center for Advancing Opportunity principally is about doing research. It's about listening. It's about talking to members in the community. We are partnering with Gallup, and we're literally going to go into communities. We call them fragile communities. We don't like to say poor, disadvantaged, those terms. They're fragile communities where people could go either way. We're going to go in and talk to those folks. We want to understand what are those barriers that if we removed them could just open up your opportunity. So the fundamental sort of decision, the differentiator between what we're doing and what everyone else has been doing is we're going to go listen to the community. Understand through polling, what are those barriers? Once we understand them, we're going to focus, as I mentioned, in 3 areas. It's nice to talk about criminal justice reform and what we do with people who are currently incarcerated, but my God, wouldn't it be beautiful if we could prevent people from getting into that system? Right. That's the #1 challenge for us, which is why education reform is the focus area for us. We want to understand when we talk to communities of color or just fragile period, because remember, fragile community could be white people in West Virginia. It is about people who don't have opportunities, and there are barriers there that we need to remove, but we don't know what they are. So we're going to fix our educational system. We're really going to figure out what the community, I won't get off of my school choice or what we're called parental choice argument, but the reality is I'm very much pro-traditional schools, but where they don't work, we owe it to our children to get the best opportunity to be able to compete in this incredibly competitive environment. So if the answer is a public charter school, then God bless it. And if that's what the communities tell us they want, then that's what we have an obligation to give them. Not get caught up in, supporting adults and ideological issues. We've got to figure out. So education reform. Mm-hmm. Hopefully, if we do education reform right and the community tells us what we need to do, we can then turn to the folks who somehow get trapped nonetheless, even after a good education, and make sure that they are treated fairly, equitably in the criminal justice system and not unfairly. And then finally, we've got to encourage entrepreneurship in our communities. Everybody can't go work for somebody. I mean, we've got to create that. It's nothing worse to go into our communities and see where it used to be the black funeral homes. You all know the story now. There's a big company that's taken a white company that's taken over all the black funeral homes. They've just gobbled them up. Barbershops, restaurants, just go down the list where we used to have entrepreneurship in our community. Something has happened. And what the Center for Advancing Opportunity is going to do is try to figure out what it is. It's not folks sitting down from Harvard or University of Chicago or wherever coming in and saying, we have studied you all, and we know what's wrong, and here's the suggestion for how we fix it. We're at the center going to talk to the community. We're going to have really good research, and then advocate for policy and programs that should make a difference. That's how we're going to fix it.
I want you to take 30 seconds to talk about, this is not a new approach for Johnny and the Thurgood Marshall College Fund. Talk about even the acquisition we talked about on our call.
Yeah.
So Johnny, what he does, he represents academic institutions and students pursuing scholarship, but he understands that there needs to be a business or entrepreneurial approach to serving the goals of both of those communities and really having the kind of impact that we're talking about. So just briefly, you talked about an acquisition you guys made that you wouldn't expect from.
Well, right, an acquisition. I'm a former lawyer, so I was or reforming lawyer, as they say. But the reality was, I came in, early observation was, we were in 2010 looking around, the economy was bad, and as we say, when the majority community had the flu, we had pneumonia, so there were no jobs for our children, even the tops of their classes. And so we said, what do we do if employers aren't hiring? Well, we've got to focus on entrepreneurship. So scanned the world, used a big firm, Booz Allen, went out, did some research, and we found an acquisition target. Opportunity Funding Corp. I don't know if any of you have heard of OFC, but OFC was created in the 1970s under the Nixon administration. Believe it or not, Donald Rumsfeld was the first, created the concept. invested $7 million in the African American community, targeted African American community. And the concept was, we don't necessarily want to, invest in entitlement programs. What we want to do is give you the money to take care of yourselves, and you can invest. So out of Opportunity Funding Corp, they funded back in 1970s, BET, Radio 1. I understand you all here, Black Enterprise got some of the funding. And we saw communities flourishing. Black businesses grew out of OFC. So I said to myself, who better than Thurgood Marshall College Fund to go acquire them? So luckily, 2012, we went out and acquired the Opportunity Funding Corp. We are now funding it. We're going out identifying top business ideas from these young students. By the way, you should recruit some of them because they are brilliant. They're not all on the West Coast. A lot of them are right here on the East Coast in HBCUs. But we are now getting them in rooms, and they're coming up with new businesses, and we're incubating them, we're funding them, giving them access to money, removing the barrier that they don't know how to get access to capital, and hopefully transforming our community. So we are, one, putting kids into major corporations, and we are hoping to create some major corporations by investing in kids who want to be entrepreneurs. Opportunity Funding Corp is now one of our divisions.
Excellent. So we got 10 minutes to go. I already have a few questions. I don't know if any more are going to be brought up. So I'm going to throw in some of these questions in the 10 minutes we have left. So literally starting at 5, 4, 3, 2, oh, here's some more questions. We're not going to get to all these questions because, again, we're on a tight schedule. But I did want to at least have some audience questions. So, and some of these questions, one of them is very, very long. So I'm going to try to boil it down. But speak to me, Charles. Farag Gray is quoted as saying, build your own dreams or someone else will hire you to build theirs. Can you speak to the level of funding Koch Industries provides to assist entrepreneurs by investing capital and mentoring support? I know we talked a little bit about that already. How can people in this room, that's what I like about this question, great question, because the goal is not for you to listen and be entertained, but also to take action when you leave the room. How can people in this room tap into support from Koch Industries, and how can entrepreneurs pursue business opportunities with Koch Industries?
Well, you can write me and I'll get it listened to.
Yeah, he does actually read his own mail. That's what he responded. Right. Yeah. But I mean, you could contact him directly. But Koch Industries has a number of divisions that are looking for entrepreneurs to do business with.
Oh yeah, no, we invest with entrepreneurs constantly. Right. So we're looking for good ideas. And what we look for are ideas of our ventures, opportunities of mutual benefit, like acquisitions or investments are, okay, can we help them be successful by applying our management philosophy, market-based management, our other capabilities, help them? In other words, I have 3 criteria for partnerships. You share vision, share values, and you bring complementary capabilities. And for example, we bought half interest in Infor, which is the 3rd largest enterprise resource planning company after Oracle and SAP. And it turns out the CEO of that, Charles Phillips, is a graduate of Hampton, one of the HBCU colleges. So we know where to go get good stuff here. So
yeah, and Charles Phillips also is one of the few executives that has made Black Enterprise top blacks on Wall Street when he was in Wall Street, and top black people in corporate America. So he's a great leader. He's a great leader.
We need more entrepreneurs. If any of you are Charles Phillips, you got it made with us.
So I want to spin the question around the other way, and again, back to mutual benefit. And I'd like each of you kind of to address this. You got a room full of business leaders. What would you like them to do to help advance this cause of laying the groundwork for the next generation of entrepreneurs? When we talk about making an impact, there's what we can do as individuals, but this is a group of business leaders, several hundred business leaders. As entrepreneurs, as leaders, what could they do to make what you're trying to accomplish with the Center for Advancing Opportunity and for Principled Entrepreneurship to have the kinds of impact on a scalable level in the community?
Is that for Johnny or me?
Either one of you or both of you.
Okay, I mean the 3 things we've been talking about. We need education reform so students learn to change their mindset, that they can be entrepreneurs, they can be successful, that they are exposed to different ideas and learn that education isn't about reinforcing your prejudices or your preconceived ideas or regurgitating what the teacher said. It's about learning a whole spectrum of different ideas, conflicting ideas, and challenging each other, challenging the professor, and learning from it. It's what Holland became the most successful country in the world, the most prosperous in the 17th century, and the sign in The Hague was listen even to the other side. If you want to be a successful entrepreneur, you've got to listen to different ideas. That's where innovation comes from, is mixing different ideas, conflicting ideas in many cases, in new ways. And then the third thing is to be a lifelong learner, particularly with the way technology is moving. If you think you can protect your business from these changes and you can be successful, forget it. Every business is going to be revolutionized.
Yes.
And okay, so that's education. Then whatever you can do to help move your community in that direction or supplement the education system so kids get this out of it, that is huge. Then the next is to remove any laws that are restricting our opportunity. In most communities, the worst one is occupational licensure, which protects those established and keeps out newcomers, particularly people who don't have anything to start with. And then the third is to try to change the criminal justice system to make it so it helps people rather than hurts people.
All right. Johnny, you want to add anything to that?
And more practically, what I'd ask each of you to consider is find an HBCU near you, or not so necessarily near you since virtually everybody's near. We need to find young people and encourage them to think this way. And you, who best than you, not the corporate person, but people like you all who are entrepreneurs. Adopt a kid. I know it sounds kind of corny, but I can't tell you the number of our students who are looking for that opportunity. And they would love to learn from entrepreneurs like you all. You've got to reach to them. And by the way, some of you may say, well, I don't have enough money to hire an intern. You'd be surprised how many of them would work for free. Let me tell you how many of them work for free in Washington, D.C. right now at the U.S. Capitol. They will come and work for free if they think there are people like you from whom they can learn. So I would really implore you all to consider making your job. I'm going to bring a student in from an HBCU. And let me just deal with this now. For any of you who didn't attend HBCUs, I didn't attend an HBCU, and I spend all days, 23 hours a day thinking about HBCUs. Here's the reality. You may not have matriculated on an HBCU campus, but every person in this room is a beneficiary and a product of the HBCU.
Including Black
Everyone. And if you don't understand that, so that is your way of giving back. You go get a young person and expose them to it. You know, our teachers, our doctors, our lawyers, the black middle class and professional class was created by HBCUs. So I would ask each of you, as someone who obviously is an advocate for HBCUs, to go back to these institutions, go teach a class. They need to see people who look like us, people who look like you, who are engaged in entrepreneurship. And they would really appreciate, I can't tell you the number of mentees, just that phone call once a quarter where they can run it past you. That makes all the difference in the world for these young people. Even if you don't write a check, which I hope you do. But, but let's be clear, I'm always a professional beggar. But that being said, even if you don't, it's your time and your treasure. And I can't tell you the way you'll make a big difference with these young people. Finally, I think it's really incumbent upon all of us. We operate at Thurgood Marshall College Fund, OFC, and a number of entrepreneurship programs. We're always looking for people like you all to volunteer. We need to showcase you. Right now, we're running one in Raleigh-Durham. Right now, we have it at their big center down there. We need more of you to show up and volunteer your time so that they can see what it's really like. And you'd be surprised. You will find some of these young people who have the legs and frankly don't have the mortgages and everything else. They may join you in your pursuit. You know, we're at an age where you may, you know, there's a lot to lose if we go take some risk, but these 20-year-olds will do anything.
They'll go for it.
They just go for it, go for broke, and it might be nice to have some of those hungry students join your team.
See, and that's just one more thing on this, that's what, as I said earlier, is critical to the power of youth entrepreneurs, is to find a local entrepreneur who will mentor them, have them work part-time or something so they can learn from them. Because if a kid has had a bad family experience, one class isn't going to transform their mindset.
Yes.
It needs ongoing mentoring.
Yes. So we literally have a minute and 20 seconds to go, and that was a great question, but if I ask it, it'll take us 10 minutes to answer. So I'm going to boil it down to this is our final question. And I'm going to direct it to you, Charles. What aspect of this relationship, this Thurgood Marshall relationship, your work with HBCUs in general, have you personally found to be most rewarding? I think it's a great question.
Working with Johnny here. No, I'm not kidding. Every time I talk to him, I learn something. And I think that's a state of mind of entrepreneurship, is that what success I've had is because I believe I know very little, and I could do very little on myself, but I follow Newton's philosophy, who said, if I see farther, it's because I'm standing on the shoulders of giants. So I'm looking for giants. I'm looking for ideas every day, conflicting ideas. If somebody challenges me, rather than, get mad or something, thank you. I learned a lot. Like I've learned a lot today, and that needs to be your attitude. And then don't just say I learned a lot and I feel good, but how can I apply that to make so I can contribute more, so I can do better?
Let me say this, especially for those of you who want to do business with Koch Industries, you want to read Good Profit, because that book literally lays out what the philosophy of the company is and who they like to partner with and how and why. So I read the book, enjoyed the book, reviewed the book, but you want to do that. And with that said, we ended right on time. Please give a round of applause to Charles Koch and Johnny Taylor.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, man.
You guys did great. Great. Thank you so much. I think we have to do a quick picture before we leave.
Okay.
Please don't move. I have a couple of announcements I need to make before you leave. Thank you, guys.
Hey, great job.
Great. We'll talk soon.
Okay. That's true.
As they leave the stage. So listen, we invite all the winners and presenters of the Small Business Awards to meet us backstage for photographs. But there's two important things. You want to make it to the expo hall today. I'm not going to give you the details, but there's some major book signings and other surprises. You want to be there and you want to check it out. So make your way to the expo hall. Also, this is very important, tomorrow's BE100's dinner gala. To enter the gala, to attend that dinner, you must be a registered attendee, and you must pick up a ticket from registration. Get that? So you have to have a ticket, and you cannot get a ticket if you're not a registered attendee. It's very, very important because we want to make sure we have the table set up and the food count and everything else right so we can run that event smoothly. So it's very, very important. Pass the word for somebody, if anybody you know is registered who is not here. We need you to make your way to the registration desk between today and tomorrow and get a ticket, and you will need a ticket and proof of registration, your badge basically, to attend the dinner. With that said, we want you to enjoy your sessions. We want to see you back here this evening for a conversation with the legendary recording artists turned entrepreneurs, Patti LaBelle and Yolanda Adams. That's going to be huge. And then you get me hosting the elevator pitch competition. We got finalists who are itching to show why they deserve the $10,000 final prize. So enjoy your sessions. See you guys later this evening, and thank you so much.